Well, uh, let's continue. Last time I told you that there were two types of systems that were basically large, that were basically type of larger economic systems that existed throughout the history. And one of them was word empires, basically, and the other one is the word economies, basically. Um, when we talk on the word empires, we talk on the type of institutions that control a certain area, and usually, I mean, you need to control the large centers in the area, which might even be large trade centers, large towns. I mean, basically, uh, and uh, those areas they provide tribute to the center. I mean, uh, you got from them. In later eras, you might get basically money from different parts of the empire. But even in earlier eras, even as late as the 16th century, basically, the areas also sent to the center the products, basically. Uh, and in addition, what is the benefit of this world empire in that sense to the rest of the region? They first create they first provide security, not necessarily security for the smallest villages, but at least security to the larger centers, basically, larger towns and cities, basically. Secondly, they might provide infrastructure, roads, and basically, in some cases, they might even provide canals. And in Babylonian Empire, for example, you have which improve the production in even villages, basically. Uh, but at least they might provide roads. They might bring water to the cities, for example. And they might provide a certain common rules, uh, which might also be supported by a religion, or in case of Roman Empire, for example, with certain laws that are set by the state, which basically make the exchange process between different parts of the empire easier. So they provide basically infrastructure plus security mostly. Uh, and they might also help to the parts of the empire in the time when they are in specific needs. For example, after an earthquake or after a flood, they might help to the parts of the empire. So these empires are called redistributive empires. So they got all those resources into to the center of the empire, but then at the time of need, they also distribute those resources to the different parts of the empire. So um, uh, and to some extent also they also use those resources to connect different parts of the empire and protect those different parts of that empire. And these empires usually have, as I said, administrative centers. The capital is one of them, but you have also other administrative centers. Um, and those administrative centers are, for example, among some of them are among the more famous cities of the ancient world, like Nineveh of, for example, Assyria, or Persepolis of Persia, for example, Istanbul of Ottoman Empire, for example. And you have a second type of world economics. Well, in case of world empire, uh, you have a structure where you have in this structure dependent, let's say, parts that belong to that structure. And basically, I mean, for the administrative center to gain more control, gain more power, they basically need to expand, get resources of a larger area, which contains more cities, more towns, basically. So the main way for an empire to be more powerful is to expand. Of course, when it expands, it might also take into account whether the resources that will get from the area that it expands should be worth for expansion. I mean, because especially in case of empire, I mean, you don't need to have basic food sources which are already exchanged. You might have food, but food production should be sufficiently at high level at least, so that we can get part of it, and still, I mean, people from whom we get the food should not die. And ideally, you should also have other products which were produced by the craftsmen or miners, basically. So productivity in that region should be sufficiently high to make worth for the empire to get that region, basically. And then you have world economy. As early as the Sumerian era, you have certain city-states that are connected with each other through trade networks and that are dependent to each other. You have Phoenician city-states, for example, at today's Lebanon. You have Greek city-states later. You have Mayans, for example. So those are examples of the world economies. We are not talking about, by the way, the whole world here. We are just talking about an independent system, which is called world in this case. So we can have different words in that sense. In case of a world economy, you have different centers that are connected with trade. So these centers are dependent to each other. For example, when you are talking on ancient Athens, they started to produce grape and wine in the immediate villages around it. So now Athens needed food from other parts of the Greek world system to survive, because the food that was produced immediately around Athens was not enough. Why Athens has done that? Because it has the trade system in the Greek world sustained so long enough at least, and Athens was for such a long time at its most prominent members. Athens had trusted that this world economic system of Greek city-states will continue to exist. And since it has this trust to the world economic system, Greek world economic system, in that case, I mean, Athens might just decide it is more worth for it to produce grape and wine and sell it. And since that wine of Athens was wine of Athens was demanded at such volumes, it can get the food more easily and in larger quantities, and it can get some additional products even, and it might even free sufficient level of people so that, I mean, they can develop theater, they can develop philosophical centers there. I mean, because with the wine they can buy a lot of food, so they can now free some people from even wine production, because a small amount of wine would be enough to buy the food they need. So in the world economy, you have basically the trade centers, and world economy basically develops by expansion of capital. While in the world empire, basically the empire itself is aiming to get to territory as large as possible. An expansion of territory becomes the basic call for major actors in the world empire. Not necessarily only the empire itself, but even the provisions. The different provinces might also get larger territories, if possible. They might get their territory to become larger. But in case of world empire, the main way of expansion, development, getting more power, is getting a higher amount of wealth. Well, which might be in money form, which might be in metals form. That money and that wealth will allow you to buy and control more and more of the production that is done in the different areas of the world economy. If a city becomes extremely wealthy, and if that wealth is in a form that is accepted as money, or its buying power is accepted, if its buying power is accepted in different parts of the world economy, and it should be so, that something should be accepted in all agents of the world economy, so that the trade in the world economy can exist. If that's the case, the agents that have a lot of capital, a lot of buying power, well, they are the ones that are buying the products from the different parts of the empire, and they even have the power to, after they buy those products, after they store those products, decide whom to sell what they have bought. So both buyers, and from the perspective of buyers and sellers, they become powerful, because if they decide not to buy, then the sellers might not be able to sell what they are producing, and even buyers might not be able to do that if they are not they don't decide to sell. So having this capital allows you as a trade center, and as a merchant, to control this trade. And usually, this trade is controlled by individual merchants, and those merchants are mostly concentrated in major trade centers, and one of them might be, in some cases, especially powerful. And those merchants are aiming to increase their capital, being able to buy and sell ever larger quantities of the products. And the more they are able to do that, the more they control the trade. And in extreme cases, when a trade center emerges, it might even produce certain products. For example, in Tyre, famously, the wooden products were produced and demanded by everyone, or the blue, purple clothing was produced. In Athens, wine was produced. Certain products that are especially high demand might even produce, the trade center might even concentrate on producing those products instead of, being self-sufficient and produce the food they need. Those trade centers, especially when they become extremely powerful and they have reason to believe that this world economic system will continue, and they will continue to stay as trade center, they might even rely on this trade network to get their basic needs, and they even become kind of primitive industrial centers, where certain the city become kind of where there are many workshops that are produce certain goods that are in high demand. Anyway, for example, Venice, very famous, it was also, I believe, glass products were produced when it became a trade center, because those glass products were demanded by whole Europe. It also became a primitive, for example, production center, industrial center. Of course, not in terms of today's industry, but a very primitive version of an industrial center. And anyway, this is world economy. Now we will focus on world economy a little bit more, because in the end, the whole world has evolved into a world economy. So it is kind of the system in which we are living now. So let's talk more on the basics of the world economy in the next part.